Are you tired of spending too much of your hard-earned money at the supermarket? Are you dreaming of farm fresh eggs, homegrown veggies, and homemade everything? Well, welcome to Ditch the Store, where we break free from supermarket dependence and take back control of our food and household essentials. I'm CJ, and I'm here to show you that life is too short for store-bought eggs. So let's get started. G'day everyone, and welcome to episode 143 of Ditch the Store. I still sometimes have the urge to say not the farmer's wife, even though it's been a very long time since the podcast has been not the farmer's wife. I will this year, I promise the beginning of this year, I'm going to put up a list of all the old episodes because we're up to 143, which I just think is amazing. And given that I've just recently had 4 weeks off recording any podcasts because I got injured on a farm accident. If you didn't hear about that, go back to episode 142. I talk all about my farm accident. Not to scare people off farming. Accidents happen no matter where you work. And working with animals, there's always some kind of risk attached. So I don't say it, and I didn't put that episode out to make anybody fearful of working with cattle. More that I wanted to kind of give everybody a bit of a, accidents do happen, but you can shake yourself off and get up and get on with it. Obviously, some accidents are more serious. Mine was pretty serious. I'm still out milking my goats every morning, so there's always a way around it. There's always something you can do. Anyway, today's episode is being released on Christmas Day, which, most of my listeners live in Christian-based countries. So, Christmas Day for us is a pretty big celebration. It's a downtime for us. I don't have to work in my normal job. That being said, the handy helper does have to work. So before I start anything else, I want to do a big shout out to anybody who is emergency services, anybody who works in any of those industries where Christmas Day does not mean a day off. The handy helper works in corrections, so he looks after people in our local jail. And because he's doing that, obviously, people that look after people who are in jail don't get a day off. Prisoners still need to be looked after. As a 25-year veteran of the police force, I know that I have worked probably half of those Christmas days. So out of 25 years, I've probably worked 12 or 13 of them. And the Christmas days that I haven't worked, I have worked the New Year's Eves. So anybody who is working today, please stay safe. Please get home to your families with enough energy to still enjoy the day, or have a separate day that you're going to celebrate Christmas on, like we're going to do here, where we're going to have the handy helper's birthday, which is Christmas Day, and Christmas Day on a completely other day when we're all here and we can celebrate with him. But please stay safe, and thank you so much for your service, because honestly, I don't think people realise, if they haven't worked in a job that works Christmas Day, a lot of people don't realise just how hard it is to walk away from your family on Christmas morning to go into work when you'd much rather be like everybody else at home with your family on that particular day. And that has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with most people want to spend time with their family. Rightly so. I love my family. Anyway, episode 143, Christmas Day. And I wanted to do a bit of a rehash of what the farm has taught me this year. And I should caveat that with even when nothing went to plan, because this year's been hard. And I keep saying it. 24 was hard. 25 was harder. I keep saying 26 is my year. It's got to be my year. We've got to get to a point in 26 where we're not struggling quite so much physically. Physically has been the big issue for me with my injuries, but also to getting the farm ahead, getting the things done around the farm that I wanted. And I think it's really important. Last year I had a list of goals that were a mile long, like seriously. But, life, work, kids, my injury, my knee reconstruction, plans don't always go to plan. So I want to go through what I learned about that this year, because I am not the kind of person who can normally take a back seat and take a step down and kind of go, no, I'll just stop. That doesn't work for me. That's not in my personality. But this year really did feel like two steps forward, 3 steps backward. That's exactly what it felt like for me this year. So if it felt like that for you this year too, then you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. So Merry Christmas. I hope you are, if you are listening to this, I don't even care if you're not listening on Christmas Day. I hope you had an awesome Christmas Day with your family. And as I said, this year was not a normal year. So this is not a normal yearly wrap up of look at all the things that I achieved, because I achieved jack shit. I feel like I achieved jack shit. I had long service leave. I had knee replacement late 24. So all of early 25, I was managing a knee replacement, which anybody that's had a knee replacement or any kind of replacement, hip replacement, shoulder surgery, things like that, it's hard. It's hard to come back from that. And as you get older, it becomes harder. Younger people seem to bounce back. Certainly when I had my shoulder surgery, I think I was like 34 when I had my shoulder surgery, bounce back, no problems. Getting towards 50 and over 50, like I am, having a surgery, it takes a bit out of you. It does take a while to bounce back. But I did bounce back. My knee recovered. I was back on the mend. I was starting to really do stuff at the gym. I was swimming, all that kind of thing. I took long service leave to try and get some things organised around the farm and with my home business. And I have to be honest, I procrastinated a lot of the way through the year based around my knee when I probably should have been using that time to do things. Now, some people will say, well, you're recovering from your knee surgery. You should have been resting. Yes, I probably should have been resting, but I probably should have allocated my time better too. I felt like I spent a lot of time resting and not a lot of time doing anything else. So that was a big thing. Then, of course, just as my knee was completely back to normal and I was just about to sign off with physio and all that kind of thing, like the physio had said, you are done, you're good to go. You can go back to being an operational police officer at work. I broke my leg on the 1st of November in an accident with a large cow. Which was no fun, and it literally wiped out the rest of my year. Now, I was just at a point where I was about to start getting gardening going, and I know some people would say, well, you should have started your garden in September. We had extremely cold weather towards the end of the year, and I'd gone back to work. I'd gone back from my long service leave, so time was short and valuable, and with the cold weather we were having, there was no point putting anything out because we were still having frosts well into October. I actually had planned to plant stuff the day after my accident with the cow. So that, of course, didn't happen. I have got seeds lying everywhere. I've got containers everywhere and soil, and it just didn't happen. So my garden that I had planned to get a really good garden going through December is non-existent. And at the moment, I've had a look out there, the few little trips that I do outside. I haven't even got a lot of raspberry or strawberry pollination happening, which is a bit disappointing. I don't know what's going on with the bees. They're still looking pretty happy. So we also, this year, we had a lot of goat losses, more so than I think any other year. We had a dog attack in October that resulted in 3 dead goats. We lost Rocky to Barber's poleworm, which I'm all over the Barber's poleworm stuff. That I could do with one leg not working. But we did lose Rocky, who was our prize buck, to Barber's poleworm, which is just, it opened my eyes up to how bad it can be. And I think it's really important not to beat yourself up about it. I did beat myself up about it because we lost Willow and we lost Rocky, and I'm putting both of them down to Barber's poleworm. I did beat myself up about those. And I need to not. That's something that I need to learn to do out of this year. And then, of course, obviously I have my broken leg, which is, not a great way to end the year. It was a shit year. I've got to be honest. This year, there's been some really good points of this year, and there's been some really shit points. I want to do one big shout out to my kids, MJ and OJ, and to the handy helper. Honestly, the last 6 weeks being on crutches of this year would be the last 8 weeks of this year I'll be on crutches. I could not have continued doing the farm stuff without them. The kids, as well as the handy helper, have all just cracked in so hard, and there's been no complaints, there's been no arguments. They just get in and get the work done. So if you're doing it on your own, I take my hat off to you. But if you're doing it with family, make sure you give them a pat on the back. If they've really pulled out all stops and helped, make make sure you give them the pat on the back because they deserve it. And certainly my two kids, this lifestyle wasn't their choice. While they enjoy living out here and they love the goats and they love the chickens and all that kind of stuff, it was not their choice. It was my choice, and they have had to just come along for the ride. And they've been really awesome. But I also want to say thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast. Particularly, I know I have a couple of regulars who always listen, and thank you so much for sticking with me, particularly during my 4-week hiatus. That was not planned. I had so many things planned for the rest of this year, and they just obviously all went out the window. But I want to say thank you to you guys, because I actually had a look, and I'll have to post it. But according to Spotify, I'm in the top, I want to say the top 20 of homesteading, but the growth rate of listeners was through the roof. It was like 400% more listeners or some crap like that. I don't know. I'll have to have a look. I did save it. I will post it. I'm super excited that we have had so many new people joining us and listening. And I hope going into 2026, I really hope that I can put some good content out there that you guys can listen to on your commute to work, or when you're out in the garden and you've got your headphones on, that give you some kind of inspiration to do homesteading and do more of homesteading and do different things in homesteading, because that's all I want, is people to have a go at this lifestyle and see what works for them and stick with it. And if it doesn't work for you, toss it to the side. So the year I didn't build the dream, that's pretty much what I'm classifying this year as. The garden plans were the big ones. I had so many plans around getting the garden up and running and really having a proper veggie garden. Even though I do live a predominantly carnivore lifestyle, I do eat strawberries. I wish I could grow an avocado here. I need a hothouse for an avocado here because we're just too cold. We're too far south. But I wanted to get some nut trees growing, tomatoes, even though the handy helper won't eat them because he's one of those people that suffers a little bit of gout from tomatoes. But the kids love tomatoes. They'll eat tomatoes till they're, done. OJ loves fresh corn, and I've got to be honest, fresh corn does taste so much different to shop bought corn. But even things like just salad greens and stuff like that, so that we could, do that kind of thing. Garlic and onions. It's always been my dream to grow enough garlic and onions that I never have to buy any of those horrible ones in the shop. I do love my garlic and onions, and that's my goal. It didn't happen this year for a variety of reasons. I missed the start of the season as far as garlic went, and then, so that's my big plans for next year. But the garden expansion did not happen the way that I wanted it to. I also need the handy helper to set up a better watering system for me up there, and that didn't happen. I need to move a beehive out of that area because they just get a bit nasty at times. There was lots of things that didn't happen with the garden. I've also got fruit trees that did not get covered this year, so the cockies have already destroyed any fruit that was forming, which is really disappointing because the apple tree makes the most amazing apples. The kids absolutely love them, so that was really sad that the cover didn't get done on that. It really did go pear-shaped. The other things that I had planned for this year were meat birds. I wanted to do meat birds again because we have finished up all our chickens that we had in the freezer, so we needed some more meat birds. I was going to do more layer birds. We had a fox attack in October that took out 6 of my layers, but we've also had the Isa Browns, and I have spoken about this in the past. Isa Browns don't have an extensive lifespan. So we have Araucans, we have a couple of Australorps, and we have Isa Browns. The Isa Browns fall off the perch so quickly. Like, we probably, out of the 40 Isa Browns that I had, there's maybe 15 left. And they're just coming up to 2 years old now. So that just shows you they just don't last. The Australorps, I think I've lost one Australorp, I've lost one Araucan, and that's it. They like, apart from fox attacks, they just don't die. They keep kicking on. I've also got the Brahmans now, so I've got a Brahma flock that I use for eggs, which don't produce anything special egg-wise, but they're very big birds. But I wanted to get more egg-laying birds going. So that we could, produce more eggs to sell. And I wasn't able to. We've got the brooder house all set up, and I was literally in the process of ordering some when I went back to work. And then because I'd gone back to work, I thought, no, I'm not going to have time. I'll just wait till I'm settled. And then, of course, my leg got broken, and that was the end of that. We also had infrastructure goals, which we did get some done. So to be fair, we did get fencing done around the chicken paddock, and we did section off the goat paddock that is just for the milking goats. So that was really good. Handy Helper was able to get that done. We were able to change around our fencing and get the cows and horses right up to the back. And so the goats who I was worried about with Barber's poleworm have been able to go into a paddock that hasn't been exposed. And they are all looking amazingly healthy now. So I'm really, really impressed with the condition that they're keeping. And now that we've been able to put them out into that front paddock, I've also been able to do the copper wire oxide capsules, pellets, into those goats to try and prevent Barber's poleworm striking us again in the way that it did. So that's a win. We have to put that down as a win. I think it's really important that you don't, even when you've had a shit year like I've had this year, you can acknowledge the disappointment and the frustration, but don't dwell on it. You have to I think you have to be sensible about it and go, okay, these things didn't happen. Acknowledge why they didn't happen. Was it time shortages, money shortages, other things, just life got in the way? And use that to be able to focus on what you can do to fix it for next year, so that those kinds of things don't stop you next year and they don't get in the way next year, and you can work around them next year. I think when you look at it that way, you then also have to look at the upside of things and what did work and what was great and what worked in a way that, you were able to function and get ahead, and you can pat yourself on the back and go, yeah, you know what? We did get the fence done in the chook yard. That's awesome. That the fact that we were able to separate the chicken yards from the goat milking paddocks means that we never have to worry about the goats getting caught in the chicken fencing, which used to happen regularly. And we actually lost a goat to that. So obviously I don't want that happening anymore. And that's why we had to do the fencing. That's a huge win, because now it means we don't have to worry. We also had our first calf born on the farm, where Molly calved T-Bone. So, that's a huge win for us. Like we got through that first calving, healthy, happy, mum was feeding well, nobody got sick, nobody died. But did you die? Nobody died. We have to stick with that. We also, and I said this to the Handy Helper the other day, have to acknowledge the fact that this is the most kids we've had born in one season who've survived on the farm. Now, we did lose Sage, so we have 2 bottle babies, we have 2 orphans, but we had 4 sets of twins born, and I'd only put the buck that we had, the spare buck, I'd only put him over 4. So out of that 4, one of them actually didn't take and didn't get pregnant. That was Hazel, who we've decided to retire. She's 8 years old and we've decided to retire her from milking. She's just going to be the grand dame of the paddock now. But the buck had got to one of the Angora nannies that had kidded last year, but I wasn't going to put her with that buck this year. And they'd obviously got together over the fence at some point. So we ended up with 4 sets of twins born out of 4 crossings. Not the 4 crossings I'd planned, but we still, So we've got 2 3/4 Angora goats, which, depending on how their hair turns out, they may end up going for meat instead of staying. But, we'll see how we go. We call them the curly tops at the moment. They look really Angora-ish in their how their hair is. We've got Doogie and Lily, and Doogie is already spoken for. He's weathered already and he's already spoken for, as is Bruce out of Poppy's 2 twins. So we have Bruce and Ash and Lily will make up part of my milking herd. Bruce and Doogie are being adopted by workmates of the Handy Helper, and they're going to go and live their forever dreams on a farm with kids and other animals. So we're just prepping them to get ready to go to their forever home now, because they're just about old enough. They're nearly 3 months. They'll still be on the bottle, but they'll have that. I think the kids will enjoy bottle feeding them, and it'll give them a better bonding anyway. And then Lucy, who is my best milker, managed to produce twin girls, Ivy and Clover. So super excited to have 4 new milking goats to join the herd. Not until 2027. They won't be breeding till then. But super excited to have that many. And out of the breeding cycle, we only lost Sage. And that was disappointing and certainly something that's taught me a lesson. But also it was very unavoidable from what the what the vet went through with me. Now, we also started the extension on the kids' bedrooms. We haven't finished it, but it's well and truly started. It's almost completely sealed. And we've just got to go through and line it now. And then we can get the kids out into that extension, which they'll be happy with because they'll have a bedroom of their own each then. At the moment, they're still sharing and not happy about it. So those wins, I have to acknowledge those wins and go, yep, you know what? For all the fuck-ups that happened this year, we still had wins, and they were good wins. You know, we've got a Brahma flock up and running. We've got, the other goat herd. I've got seven wethers that are due to go for meat goats. So hopefully that will bring a little bit of cash in as well to the farm, which will be fantastic, and reduce a little bit of our feed burden. Not that we're hand feeding. They're all at the moment on grass fed. We've had a lot of rain here in the last couple of months, so that's been good. But I think it's really important to take your wins and run with those and go, you know what, I did okay on those. And the losses, the ones that you didn't get to, the goals that just didn't get achieved, it's okay to say, I didn't get to them and I'm not going to beat myself up about them. I'm just going to put them to the side and get on with life. And I think that out of that comes a few really good lessons. And these lessons are lessons that I have to be honest, I'm standing here talking about them, but I'm still learning them myself. And I'm not terribly good at some of them. And the first one is the main one, which is rest is part of the rhythm of homesteading. I think people that live in the States, I envy you a little bit in that it gets to winter and you guys really have an enforced downtime with a lot of things where animals go into barns, they're hand fed. Yes, that's a nuisance probably. Having to go out of the house to go to the barn in a snowstorm is probably no fun. Having to heat up water troughs so that they're not turning into ice blocks so that the animals have got water to drink. Yeah, there's still jobs to be done. You know, we all know as a farmer, it's 7 days a week. There is no days off. But having that winter kind of hiatus, that winter hibernation kind of period where the animals all kind of stop doing things over winter or stop doing as much over winter, it's kind of like an enforced rest. Whereas here in Australia, because we don't have snowy areas, we have snowy areas up in the mountains, but there's not a lot of farmers up there. The areas that most of the farms are in, particularly in the northern parts of Australia, farming never stops. It's full on all the time. You can breed year round with goats. You can breed year round with cattle. You don't have to have that enforced rest period. I think it's really important though to schedule in that rest period and go, you know what, we are not breeding from, like I'm going to breed the goats in April, May to kid September, August, September, but during that middle period where everything's pregnant but not doing anything, actually have some downtime, and make sure that you do it. Certainly the enforced rest that I had to have with my broken leg taught me a big lesson. I'm not somebody who can just sit around, but I really haven't had much choice. I physically can't do the things that I want to do. So it's really, really put me in a situation where I had no choice but to stop. And it took me a while to get my head around the fact that that's not failure. I'm treating it like a reset instead of I failed to do something. That's my reset time. And I'm going to come out of it stronger and doing more than what I was doing before, which may or may not be a good thing. One of the other things is that you don't have to do it all to be a homesteader. And I've said this before, some people are fantastic with their gardens. Some people are like me, really good with animals. Other people, sourdough queens, making their soap, homemade everything in the kitchen. That's fantastic. However, over the last couple of weeks, we have a new air fryer because the air fryer died. We have a new air fryer. And believe me, there are times when things have gone in there that are pre-processed crap to feed the kids. And not everything has been homemade. And I'm okay with that. It took me a little while to get my head around it, but I didn't really have a choice. It's okay not to be homemade everything in certain cycles. And the cycle for me at the moment is I'm just doing what I can to get through. Now, the sourdough starters are in the fridge. Haven't even been looked at. They're at the back of the fridge. I will get them out and refresh them before Christmas because I'll probably make bread over Christmas for everybody that's going to be here and eating when we have our pseudo-Christmas after Christmas. But not being able to do the garden, I'm not going to cry about it. I didn't get to it. We still have eggs. We have growing animals. We have milk that we're still milking. Milking has never, that's always been a constant. It's okay to let something go if you can't get to it. There's times when you can't do everything. Don't panic. You'll get there eventually. And the thing is, you don't even have to get there eventually. If there's some things that aren't that important to you, don't do them. You know, if having chickens is really not on your radar, don't do it. And don't feel that you're not a homesteader because you don't have chickens. If you've got milking goats and you've got a veggie garden and you make your own sourdough and your own soap, you know, really, anybody that would say you're not a homesteader, they're probably not even fucking close themselves. So tell them to bugger off. I was going to say fuck off then. And then I thought I better not say that because then I'll have to put a thing on it. And then I'm like, well, I swear every episode anyway. Homesteading teaches resilience. That's one of the lessons that I definitely learned this year after the broken leg. I had no choice but to bounce back. I said it to a nurse at the hospital. She said, you're very chirpy and you're very handling all this very well. And I said, well, the options are that I curl up in a ball and cry, or I smile and say, the cow didn't kick me in the head, therefore I don't have a broken head, so that's a win. And you really have to look at it like that. You have to take the wins where you get them, and that breeds resilience. It breeds resilience in children. It breeds resilience in adults. Even if you didn't have resilience before, you will have resilience after living and working a homestead. And even when you're off your feet, you have to, like I say, we're still milking the goats. There's things that I do around the house. This morning I had the shittest morning ever. I made myself some carnivore style pancakes, so egg and cream cheese pancakes. And I thought, you know what? We've got maple syrup in the fridge. It's proper real maple syrup. I'm going to drizzle a bit of maple syrup, and I haven't had any in it forever. I dropped the maple syrup bottle on the floor with crutches. So cleaning up maple syrup off the floor on my desk chair by rolling over and then leaning forward and trying to mop up maple syrup off the floor. I could have sat there and cried. I felt like crying, but I didn't. I just mopped up the maple syrup and got on with it. And sometimes surviving the year is the win. That's probably the big one. And certainly, like I say, nothing like a sense of your own mortality to get you through the year. After the accident where the cow kicked me, I literally sat in hospital and thought to myself, if it had kicked me in the chest or in the head, I may not be sitting here having this conversation with the handy helper now. Which sounds very dramatic and sounds very over the top, but honestly, it is the truth. If that cow had kicked me in the head with the same force it kicked my leg and broke my femur, I would have had a cracked skull. I might have ended up with brain damage. I might have been dead. Who knows? If I'd been kicked in the chest like that, a double barrel kick to the chest, and I've been kicked in the stomach by a horse before, it's no fun. Potentially I wouldn't still be here having that conversation. So you really have to take the wins and go, you know what? I broke my leg, but I'm getting over it. And it'll recover. It will repair, and I will go back to doing all the things that I like to do. My house will be clean again. It's not very clean at the moment. If you can see the shit all over the lounge behind me. But I've lowered my standards for a couple of weeks. And then as I get more mobile, my standards will move back up and we'll get on with the next cycles. And I think it's really important to realise that too, that just because you didn't get to it this year, that doesn't mean that next year when summer happens or winter happens and autumn happens and it's time to plant garlic, I'll just start planning now to order my garlic bulbs for in time. And write myself a list. I'm going to make many more lists this year to try and jog my memory to do things before it gets to the point of, oh shit, I've missed that. So what am I going to take into 2026? And I hope you do too, is some realistic hopes. So make a realistic list. and probably a good way of doing it that I think, and I might even try and put something out for you so that you can download a list of absolutely have to do. So they're things like milking the goats, chickens, because they're things that I do every day anyway. Breeding the goats because I'm doing artificial insemination this year, so I need to schedule that kind of stuff in. The nice to have, so I want to divvy up some more paddock fencing areas. So there's some more infrastructure that I want to do with paddock fencing. I want to get some more layer birds so that we've got more chickens laying eggs. And then I'd really like to have, which is the cow artificial insemination. It's the meat birds that I wanted to get done. It's the veggie garden, which isn't vital to us and we can survive without it, but I'd really like to get it. So I'm going to make a list with them prioritised. Must-dos, really like to do. If I've got time and I've got the energy, then that's on that list too. Instead of just going, here's a list of 47 projects, handy helper, this is what we're doing this year, which is what we do most years. I'm also going to commit to being a bit more simplistic, a bit more seasonal, and a bit more planned and prepared around what I'm doing. And that comes back to my list writing, but it also comes back to planning things, setting myself little alarms in my calendar to say, hey, Cass, don't forget, this month you need to get everything prepped for next month, which is X, Y, or Z. And that seasonality, because I keep missing I miss the onion and garlic time to plant, and then by the time I get to it, I end up buying seedlings instead of doing my own seedlings. And so I want to do it from scratch. So I'm going to put everything in the calendar this year. And I want you guys to try and do that too. So what I'm going to try and focus on coming into the new year, we're going to start off a new cycle of podcasts talking around getting that homestead up and started. So for January through to March, we're going to be talking all things getting the homestead up and started. And I'm going to try and put out a lot more printables for you, a lot more things that you can print out and sit down and write out a list of, plan a garden bed around, write out a list of what you need to get, where you need to be, where you can kind of project manage your homestead a little bit better. So that's what I'm going to try and aim for in 2026. And hopefully it'll be useful to you. If it's not, tell me. If there's something you really want me to put out, also tell me so that I can then put it out for you. Because I really want you to get something out of your homesteading journey the same way that I have been, but also in my organisation, in my change over to being a lot more organised and a lot more scheduled. I'm hoping that might give you some encouragement to do what you need to do on your homestead. Anyway, that's it for this week. I hope you had an amazing Christmas. I'm hoping very much that you have an amazing new year. One thing I was going to mention is through the new 12-month period coming up into 2026, I'm also going to focus on one other little thing, and I hope it's not going to put some of my listeners off. I would have said in previous episodes, I am definitely not religious. I am not a churchgoer. I have no problem with religion at all. We've had some things happen here in Australia over the last month that have been devastating to certain religious communities. So I wanted to do a shout out to the Jewish community here in Australia and say, we are with you, we do stand with you, and we abhor any kind of violence towards you by any other group. It's really important, I think, to acknowledge that. And I don't want to harp on about which group, targeted which group, but for the Jewish people out there, we are with you. Even those of us that aren't religious, the freedom to practice your religion in Australia is something I will defend with my dying breath. And on that point, I follow a very cyclical calendar that probably most aligns with old pagan traditions. So throughout the next 12 months, I will also highlight some of those particular special points on the calendar. If you are Christian and you don't like it, that's fine. Just skip those episodes. If you're interested in learning about it, then jump on in and listen to those episodes. I'm not going to be going all woo-woo on you, but certainly the handy helper does say I'm a little bit more woo-woo than he is. So don't let that put you off. If you don't like those episodes, just skip past those ones and go to the other ones. But there will be some episodes talking around, particularly for Southern Hemisphere, seasonality for us, which is very different to the Northern Hemisphere. Anyway, That is it for me. Have an amazing Christmas. Have an even better New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day will be another episode released. And like I say, coming into January, we're talking all things beginner homesteading. Anyway, bye for now. Well, that's it for today's episode of Ditch the Store. If you're loving the journey to self-sufficiency, be sure to subscribe. You can also leave a review for us or share this episode with a friend who's ready to break up with their supermarket. If you've got questions or success stories, we'd love to hear about them on the socials. You can also find me at www.mojohomestead.net. Until next time, keep raising, growing and making. And remember, life's too short for store-bought eggs.